Communicating with someone with dementia is a special skill. Improve your skills and you'll find the care that you give to be more effective. I'm Dr. Deborah Beer, Director of Special Populations, and we're going to talk about improved communication to improve challenging behavior.
Thank you for joining us today. Our presenter today is Dr. Deborah Beer, PhD. Dr. Beer is the Director of Special Populations for ComForCare and At Your Side Home Care. She has a doctorate in therapeutic counseling and a certificate in gerontology, as well as 25 plus years as a psychotherapist and home care director of care. She's also had a part in the development of the ComForCare and At Your Side's proprietary training, Dementia-Wise. ComForCare and At Your Side Home Care is an international non-medical home care agency. We provide non-medical home care and companion and personal care services and specialize in delivering dementia care services. Here's Dr. Beer.
We're going to first define Alzheimer's, dementia, and challenging behavior. We're going to talk about and understand the problem, and then I'll give you 4 areas for improved communication. This presentation is for educational purposes only. The information is not intended to be diagnostic or to serve as a substitute for actual medical advice. Seek help from a licensed medical professional for health concerns or diagnosis. Let's make some definitions clear. Alzheimer's and dementia are terms that are often confused. Dementia is a group of symptoms that involve cognitive impairment, and there are many, many types of dementia. Alzheimer's is one of those types of dementia. It's the one we hear most frequently, and it's the one that's most frequently diagnosed. But all Alzheimer's is dementia. Not all dementia is Alzheimer's. All chocolate ice cream is ice cream, but not all ice cream is chocolate. Let's talk about what challenging behavior means so that we're on the same page about this. I define it as behavior that's unsafe, dangerous, destructive, or highly upsetting to the person with dementia or others. You might notice I didn't say bizarre, annoying, or irritating. That's behavior that family members have been upset and annoyed about in each other forever. And we're not going to change that. We really have to focus on what is the most important behavior to change, because keeping them safe is a very high priority. Unusual behavior, strange behavior, it's not always a problem, and often we have to let that go. We cannot fully control people with or without dementia, so we have to choose what we want to focus on changing. Let's understand the problem of communication and challenging behavior. The common challenging behaviors we might see in dementia can involve refusal of care, arguing, wandering or eloping, rummaging behaviors, refusal to change clothing or bathe, suspiciousness, and agitation and pacing, and many more. Often, the issue with challenging behavior isn't the person with dementia. More usually, it is the caregiver who is triggering this challenging behavior. We don't do this intentionally. I know you're doing your very best, but often we don't know what better methods are, and that's why you're watching this. We need to develop new skills as dementia caregivers and become more aware of our best practices and the things that we're doing that trigger difficult behavior. We should examine our current attitudes and behaviors with an open mind and look to changing them because we can't ask the person with dementia to change anymore. They are doing their very best. And we have to learn to provide that excellent dementia care. Dementia-Wise best care practices involve evidence-based interventions to help people with dementia optimize their remaining abilities and therefore function better. They're designed to serve clients with every type of dementia at every stage and to use person-centered care approaches that include meaningful activities based on the person's interests, life story, and remaining abilities. We also provide support and information for family caregivers. Our mission is to help you become a more effective caregiver. And when you make these changes, you'll be improving life for not just the person with dementia, but for everyone around them. And quality of life is extremely important, and it is something that we can impact positively. We improve our quality of care, we improve safety, moods, and ability to function for the person with dementia. And in the end, we're actually saving time and making caregiving easier, more effective, and efficient by following these methods. Our Dementia-Wise care philosophy is that we should prevent challenging behavior before it begins. We don't wait for it and then intercede. We prevent it as much as possible. And what we can't prevent, we work to reduce in frequency and intensity. We work to reduce these behaviors until they're no longer challenging, which means they're no longer dangerous or high-risk behaviors. And while care for someone with dementia who's very dependent will not become downright easy, it will become less challenging if you use these methods. With best care practices, we can create better days for people with dementia and their caregivers. Let's look at 4 areas for improved communication skills. Let's first talk about why improve communication to improve behavior. Well, human communication is something that often causes relationships to go wrong. Difficult communication or flaws in how we communicate or a lack of communication often sets us up for problems in our relationships. Also, people with dementia have problems communicating. That's part of what they're losing, is their ability to use speech in many types of dementia. Those communication difficulties can lead to challenging behaviors. So if we work on communication, we will have a better chance of preventing or reducing challenging behavior. Let's look at 3 different types of communication: nonverbal, behavioral, and verbal. Nonverbal communication has to do with our facial expressions, how we hold our body, our postures, and kind of positions we use, whether or not we're showing signs of tension or relaxation. It includes our gestures and the quality of touch, what we communicate as we touch, whether we're disapproving or comforting or loving in our touch. And then the sound, speed, and pitch of our voice will tell about our tension or our relaxation. Nonverbal communication is really the most important type when we're dealing with people with dementia. These people have intact emotional abilities despite their other losses. They understand all of our nonverbal communication, and they know what we're feeling sometimes more accurately and quickly than we do because we're often focused on care tasks. People with dementia interpret our nonverbal communication as something that relates to them or is about to happen. Emotion is highly contagious, like a cold. Our emotional state is a form of communication that when we bring it into the room, the person with dementia will catch our feelings and emotions and often direct them back to us in a magnified way. If you want your loved one or whoever you're caring for to have a more even keel emotionally, be happier, more peaceful, then those are the emotions you need to bring into the room. Now, let's say you're working with someone who you don't like, or you're very stressed and very busy, and it's hard for you to show positive emotions. Well, I'm going to recommend that you fake it. Fake it till you make it. You will feel happier when you are doing better and your care is more effective and easier. So put on those happy emotions, those positive emotions, and see if care becomes easier. We need to check ourselves, check our body language before every single care task and anytime things suddenly go badly. We adjust our body language before every interaction, every care task, and during any time things are going the wrong direction. We want to immediately step back when things go badly and check ourselves and repeat this until it becomes a habit. Let's look at some nonverbal communication tips. These are really important because over time, people with dementia decline and they have more and more trouble understanding our spoken language. So they're going to be looking at our nonverbal language. We want to use gestures such as pointing or miming to help clarify meaning. We want to use touch when we're giving instructions, asking or answering questions or requests, or doing activities that deal with the body. For example, I want to look at your hand. You want to mime that it has to do with your hand. You want to look at that person's body language who we're caring for to understand their inner state as well. And if what they're saying contradicts their body language, trust their body language. The second type of communication is behavioral communication. And we always say that challenging dementia behavior is a form of communication. It especially becomes more important to understand this as the person's ability to verbalize what's going on inside of them and in their world becomes harder and harder. So therefore, behavior starts to be the substitute for verbal communication. By observing their behavioral communication, we can find out what their unmet needs are. We have to ask, what is this behavior communicating? What is it showing to us? And then we need to understand that person. We need to understand their history and their personal preferences in order to understand what they're showing us. And then we can create innovative and helpful interventions. Any kind of behavior that's repetitive and challenging may be expressing an unmet need that we have to explore and discover what it means. Let's take some examples. I want to tell you about Harry and I want to tell you about Sarah, two different people with the same type of dementia living in two different places. At bedtime, Harry would go around to different rooms and jiggle the doorknobs and open the doors and walk into the rooms. And it was very annoying and abrupt for other residents in his facility. Sarah, on the other hand, was more declined than Harry, and her night and day had switched so that she was up at night and sleeping a lot during the day. Now, both Harry and Sarah had problems where they would go out at night outside of the facility, outside of their room. Sometimes they would find a way to get out and be outside, and this was considered dangerous. Now, Harry, it turns out, had a history of being a night watchman. And this is something that was very important to him, is a job that he took on when he and his wife were expecting their first child for some extra money. And he kept this job for decades. He loved this job. Harry thought he needed to check all the windows and doors to make sure they were safe before everyone went to bed. Sarah, on the other hand, was more confused. She didn't know what to do with herself at night. She was awake while most people in the facility were asleep. She needed things to do, and she didn't know how to initiate activities for herself. The cure for Harry was to take him before they went to bed and check all the doors in another part of the facility where people weren't trying to sleep, and then he could go to sleep peacefully. Sarah needed somebody to work one-on-one with her at night. Solutions are not one size fits all. We have to understand the person and their history in order to come up with good solutions. The third type of communication is verbal communication. When making a request of someone who has dementia, frustration and anger can develop because communication can be difficult to achieve. If the person with dementia isn't being cooperative, maybe they're not trying to just be difficult. Maybe they can't remember what you've asked of them. Maybe they're doing their best, and maybe they feel like a failure and they're upset. And maybe they believe you're the one who's confused because you're not communicating clearly. So we have to give people instructions one at a time so that they don't have a problem remembering what we've asked them to do. Get your sweater and come downstairs are two different instructions. We need to break these down one at a time. Get your sweater. Okay, now let's go downstairs. Requests from someone with dementia may be difficult for us to understand because they have language difficulties. They may have mixed up their words. They may not be able to bring their words out that they want to say. They have aphasia. They may have lost their ability to speak. They may be using words randomly with new definitions that only they understand. And it may be hard to understand what their request is. It's important that we don't correct them, but instead we ask for more information. Can you tell me more about it? Can you show me? Or what is it used for if it seems like it's a request for something? You want to use gestures and touch to clarify. And check your body language, especially if you're getting frustrated, so that you don't trigger their frustration and other types of challenging behavior. Here are some final communication tips. You want to approach a person with dementia from the front, but a little to the side. Right from the front is confrontational. A little to the side, though, is supportive. You approach from the front so they can see you. You want to make sure before you start talking to them or requesting something of them that you have their attention. You make eye contact, gentle eye contact. Not staring or confrontational, just gentle. And then use the name that they prefer. And then proactively, immediately tell them your name and why you're there so that they don't have to wonder and have to ask you or maybe push you away because they feel at a disadvantage. You want to use simple language and gentle words. You want to ask one question at a time and often phrase questions as a yes or no or two choices. You want to simplify your speech, but you don't want to eliminate giving them choices. You do want to avoid saying don't or you can't or I told you or you remember because they don't. And don't worry if the words that they're talking to you don't make any sense, if they're word salad, just jumbled up words. It's the emotions the person is expressing that we want to watch. And lastly, if you want to avoid getting assaulted, don't step within arm's reach of someone with dementia if you haven't gotten their attention and made sure that they're happy to see you. Stop about 6 to 8 feet away from them. Make your greeting, catch their eye, make sure they're happy to see you and willing to connect. Use your warm connection. Check yourself, and then move in closer to touch if they look happy. Best care practices can help prevent or reduce challenging behavior. Changing our care habits may improve their behavior, and we need to be selective about what we want to change. We can't change all their behavior. Let's look at some additional resources. How can we help you? If you're a family member of someone with dementia or a healthcare professional who needs to manage dementia care, caregivers, or families, our offices can assist you with strategies and solutions to your dementia care challenges. Contact your local ComForCare or at your site office for information about our dementia care services. If you'd like to learn more about Dementia-Wise methods, there are many others than we discussed today. Look for Dementia-Wise presentations and family caregiver support groups in your area, and sign up to receive free information about dementia care and other topics at these websites. Thank you for joining us today.